during the course of the discussion.
Of course.
Okay, Hare Krishna to all the devotees.
Hare Krishna, Shruti.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I would like to start with a few prayers to the Lord. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm not sharing my screen, am I?
No,
you're not.
Oh, just a minute. Let me just. Okay. Yes, I will share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So Hare Krishna, I will with a few prayers. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatam aham vande paramananda madhavam ya tvara draupadi trane ya tvara gajarakshane मय्यार्ते करुणामूर्ते सात्वरा हरे. I salute the grace of the Supreme Lord Madhava, the source of pure eternal bliss, who blesses the dumb with eloquent speech and makes even the lame cross high mountains. O Supreme Lord Hari, you who rushed to the rescue of Draupadi as she was being mercilessly disrobed in the court of Dhritarashtra, and also rushed to the rescue of the elephant king Gajendra as his leg was caught in the vicious grip of a crocodile. Won't you come to my rescue with the same speed of action? So I would like to relate some very delightful pastimes of the Lord of Guruvayur. These are not mere stories, these are real, actual experiences that have been passed on by word of mouth from generation to generation for years and years together. And their only purpose is to increase the strength of our devotion to the Lord. So this one, the very first one that I would like to share today is one that we grew up listening to, and this is very often related to devotees whenever there are discourses on the glory of Guruvayur and Guruvayurappan. So as it happens, a Nambudiri priest of a family called Nenmini. So Illam is a word in Malayalam for a family or a dynasty that has been in existence for many, many years. So a Nambudiri priest of this Nenmini Illam or Nenmini family once instructed his 12-year-old son to offer Naivedyam or food to the Lord, as he wouldn't be available and no assistant priest was available to help on that particular day. So this child, so very innocent, he waited and waited and waited. His firm belief was that whenever the Naivedyam was offered to the Lord would actually appear and eat all the food that had been offered. And when the Lord did not appear for a very long time, this child was puzzled. he thought to himself, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Or maybe this rice is too plain. I think I should make it more tasty for Krishna. So the child he brought some buttermilk and some salted mangoes. And he said, Krishna, now look, you better come and eat. I've brought buttermilk and salted mangoes for you, in the hope that it makes the food more palatable for you, more tasty for you. Please, if you don't come and eat the food, I'm going to take a scolding from my father for not having offered the Nevedyam properly to you. And the Lord, when he did not still respond, the child started crying. He kept crying and crying and crying until finally the Lord, who was so moved by this innocence and this pure love that the child had, the Lord appeared, and he ate all the food, every single morsel of the food that the child had offered. And the child was very happy. And now this child is very peacefully satisfied. He says, this is a job that I've done well. The Lord has eaten the food. He is happy. The Lord is happy. And he goes and he takes the empty utensils and gives them to the temple attendant for cleaning. Now, this temple attendant, he simply refused to believe whatever the child told him. He said, what are you saying? How is this even possible? That never happens. You are just making up stories to cover up the fact that you are the one who has eaten all the food. And now you are trying to convince us that the Lord came and ate the food that you offered. Who are you trying to fool? So the attendant did not believe him. And he went and complained to the child's father, the priest, when he came back. And the father also not, and he raised his hand to hit the child, when at that very moment, before he could actually hit his son, an incorporeal voice meaning just a voice, no body, no, you couldn't identify where the voice was coming from, but it could be guessed that it was coming from the sanctum sanctorum, and the voice was heard loud and clear by everyone who was present there. And the voice said, the Lord said, I am the guilty one. I am the one who ate all the food. Unni. Unni is a Malayalam word for a little child, a little baby. Unni, that is this child, is innocent. Don't punish him. He has done nothing wrong. I have indeed eaten all the food that the child offered. So that was testimony enough to the child's innocence and the power that pure devotion has. So this family, the Nimini family, their house exists, their home exists in Guruvayur till date. And so during Guruvayur Ekadashi, in connection with Guruvayur Ekadashi every year, there is this very grand festival of lights that takes place. This festival starts a month prior to the actual Guruvayur Ekadashi day. So out of this 1 month long festival, the last 10 days preceding Ekadashi, so starting with Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Chaturthi, Panchami, Shashti, Saptami, and so on, right until Ekadashi. These last 10 days are considered to be most important. And this Nenmini family, the family to which this blessed child belonged years and years ago, this family, they make the offering of Vilaka. Vilaka is light or lamp. So this family makes this offering of lights on the Saptami day of the Guruvayur Ekadashi festival every year. And there is also a Balarama temple and an Ayyappa temple, which used to be maintained by this family, but then the maintenance and the upkeep of the temple was later on taken over by the Guruvayur temple administration. So yes, so this is just one of the Lord's many, many pastimes.
Very nice pastime. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
Just
and
a quick question. When is this Guruvayur Ekadashi?
Guruvayur Ekadashi is so the Ekadashi that occurs in the brighter half of the month, the Shukla Paksha of November, December, mid-November to mid-December. So the Shukla Paksha Ekadashi that occurs in that time period, that day is considered to be Guruvayur Ekadashi. So yeah, I thought this picture of Vanabhojanam, the episode of Vanabhojanam that is described in the Bhagavatam, I thought it would be appropriate for this particular slide. Okay, yet another very interesting pastime of Krishna. So every year there is this annual temple festival that takes place in Guruvayur. It is a 10-day long festival, and it is called Utsavam. Utsavam generally means festival. Utsavam. There are variations, but the essence is the same. So on the last day of this annual Guruvayur Utsavam or festival, there is a ritual called Arattu. So now Arattu is a ritual abhisheka or a ritual bathing of the Lord in the holy temple pond, which is called Rudra Tirtha. It is a very important ritual, and it marks the end of the 10-day long festival. And at the end of the festival, the flag that is raised on the temple flagstaff, it is lowered, and with that, the festival comes to an end. So on one such Arat day in Guruvayur, this was many years ago, of course, an assistant temple priest, he appeared at the gates of a house quite close to the temple, and he requested fresh tender coconut water to drink because he was very thirsty. He was extremely thirsty, and he wanted something to drink to quench his thirst. So by the time someone from inside the house could bring out the coconuts, the priest was no longer there. And the person who brought the coconuts, he was puzzled. And as he was standing there thinking what to do, when suddenly coconuts began to fall down by themselves from the trees. So there were a lot of coconut trees in the compound of that house, and the coconuts began falling down by themselves. And the man who was standing there, he was clueless. What's happening? The trees were good enough. There is no earthquake. Nothing is happening. And why are the coconuts falling from the trees? So what he did was in a hurry, he gathered some of the coconuts. He put them into a bag or a sack, whatever he could get hold of. And then he rushed to the temple. And then he managed to find one of the temple trustees, and he explained whatever had happened to them. And when they started asking around, it turned out that no priest from the temple had even gone in the direction of that man's house. So, and then when everyone who had gathered there, they thought about it, they realized that Guruvayurappan himself had visited the house in the guise of that priest on the pretext of asking for coconut water to drink. And it was this episode that led to a tradition of bathing the Lord or performing abhishekam to the Lord with tender coconut water on the last day of the annual temple festival every year, on the Arat day. So on the last day, along with sanctified water, there is also a tradition of performing abhishekam to Guruvayurappan with tender coconut water. And since that episode occurred, it has been the privilege of that very family to offer tender coconuts for this very purpose. So the photograph that you see on the screen, this is one of the festive deities of Guruvayur that is worshipped inside the temple. So in the Sanctum Sanctorum, along with the main deity of Guruvayur, there are two other there are two small festive deities of the Lord. One is made out of gold. The one that is made out of gold is the one that is taken out regularly every day for daily temple processions or Shri, as I explained in a few sessions ago. This deity that you see on the screen, this deity is only taken out during this annual temple festival. I think it is this deity is made out of pancha loha, or a mixture of 5 different metals. The other deity that is taken out every day, I think I have shared the photograph in previous sessions. But at some point, maybe not during the session, but maybe in future sessions, I'll share both the photographs side by side so you can see them both together. So yeah, this is, yeah. So now I come to the very, very, very well-known of a devotee called Manjula. So this tree is a landmark of Guruvayur, the tree that you see in the photograph. And anyone who is familiar with Guruvayur, anyone who is well acquainted with Guruvayur will definitely know the importance and the significance of this tree and why it means so much to Guruvayur, and why it has such an important place in the history of Guruvayur. So there was a very devoted young woman named Manjula, who used to regularly visit Guruvayur, and each time she would make it a point to take along a garland of fresh flowers that she would make herself for Krishna. And on one such visit, she happened to arrive very late, and by that time, the temple had already closed. So understandably, Manjula was very, very disappointed. She was totally heartbroken, and she just did not know what to do. She started crying. And she thought, oh, I must have done something wrong. The Lord did not want to see me. I became late. I could not give my garland to the Lord. What am I to do? So while she was lamenting her state, Puntanam Nambudri, Puntanam I have mentioned in, I think, 2 sessions ago, we talked about Puntanam and Narayana Bhattatiri, the author of Narayana. So Puntanam happened to be returning from the temple at that point of time, and he saw Manjula standing there and crying. So he went to her and he asked her the reason for her unhappiness, and she explained what had happened. He said, don't you worry. I understand how you feel, but bear in mind that the Lord is omnipresent. He's present everywhere. Why don't you offer your garland? Do you look at the stone at the foot of this peepal tree over here? Why don't you offer your garland? You place your garland on the stone. Imagine it to be Guruvayur himself. Pray to him with all your heart. He will be sure to accept your offering. He knows your heart. He understands your feelings. He understands your devotion. He'll be sure to accept your offering, no matter where you make it from. So she did as Puntanam instructed her, and she left. She made her way home. All the time she was praying to Guruvayur, Krishna, Guruvayur, please, please accept my offering, please. So the next morning, the very first darshan in the morning, as I described, a few weeks ago is called Nirmalayam, where the Lord is still adorned with flowers and decorations from the previous night. That first glimpse of the Lord is considered to be especially auspicious at the beginning of the day. So after that first darshan, the next day, the head priest, he started removing the decorations because he had to prepare the Lord for Abhishekam. So he started removing the flowers, the garlands, the clothes that the Lord was wearing, the ornaments, and he began to set them aside one by one. He noticed one particular garland which he did not recall having offered to the Lord the previous day. And come what may, that garland refused to come off. He tried and tried and tried, but it was rock steady. It remained right there. He pulled, he tried everything possible, but that garland simply refused to come off. And Puntanam happened to be present there for the darshan at that time. He was a regular visitor. So he happened to be there. And then he recalled the previous night's events. And he loudly exclaimed, if that garland is indeed the garland offered by the pure-hearted Manjula, may the garland come off immediately. And right in front of everyone's eyes, the garland fell down. And everyone, all the devotees who were present there, they rushed forward. They wanted at least one flower or even a petal, if possible, out of that garland, which was now blessed by the Lord's grace, because they saw it for themselves. How could they not believe it when they saw it happening right before their eyes? So that sacred people tree, at the foot of which Manjula offered the garland to the stone, conceptualizing the Lord's, visualizing the Lord's presence in that stone. This tree that you see in the photograph is that very same people tree, and it is popularly known as, in local parlance in Malayalam, it is called Manjulal. Manjula being the name of the girl, the devotee, and Al is a word for the people tree in Malayalam. So Manjula plus Al, giving the name Manjulal. So this tree is a landmark. It is so central, so very important to the history of Guruvayur. There are so many reminders, so many pastimes that one hears, and it only makes one's heart grow fonder and fonder for this blessed land. I would like to pause for a minute. I'll stop the screen share just for a minute or two. Would do any of the devotees have something to ask or anything to share?
Very nice pastime of the Mataji. And it shows how the Lord reciprocates. With
Exactly, exactly. True devotion is always, always rewarded, always. Right.
Very sweet pastime.
Definitely.
When you see the sweetness of the Lord, you fall in love with him.
How we can't help falling in love.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for sharing that as well. Very good.
Okay. Actually, there is another pastime that I would like to share. I haven't exactly jotted down the points on the slide, but I think I will just share it orally, and maybe in a later session I will share the text and maybe some photographs if possible. So this pastime is does not exactly take place in Guruvayur, but at this temple for Lord Shiva in a place called Kottiyur in Kerala. So the Kotiur Shiva temple is an ancient, it's a very famous, very popular, and very sacred place of worship. And this again involves one of the greatest devotees of Guruvayurappan, that is Puntanam. So Puntanam's recitation of the Bhagavatam was very, very popular with the devotees who used to come to listen to him. And he once happened to visit this particular Shiva temple at Kottayur, and he took a bath in the holy river there. He worshipped Lord Shiva at the temple, and he stayed there for a few days. And while he was there, he made it a point to recite the Srimad Bhagavatam in front of the deity every day. And every day there would be hundreds and hundreds of devotees who would gather to listen to his recitation of the Bhagavatam. And one night, as he was leaving the temple, he had gone a few steps ahead when he suddenly realized that he had left behind his copy of the Bhagavatam at the temple. And then he, oh my God, I have left my Bhagavatam at the temple. I must go back and get it. And when he returned, when he went back to the temple, of course, everyone else, all the devotees had left for the day. The temple had actually been locked, and there was no one there to witness whatever was happening. It was only Puntanam who returned because he had realized he forgot his book there. And he happened to hear some voices. He wondered, who must be in the temple at this point of time? I'm sure all the devotees must have left. I wonder who it is. And then I think he tried to listen in through the keyhole of the temple door, and he peeped through the small gap that was there. And imagine his shock or his amazement when he actually saw Lord Shiva sitting there with Devi Parvati. Lord Shiva had Puntanam's book of Bhagavatam open on his lap, and he was reading from it. And Puntanam, needless to say, he was shell-shocked. What is happening? What is this? He couldn't speak, of course. All he could do was watch and listen. And at one point of time, Lord Shiva stops, and then he asks Devi Parvati, how do you like my recitation of the Bhagavatam? Do you like it? What is your opinion? So Devi Parvati says, of course, it is very nice, my lord. It is very beautiful. But to tell you the truth, it cannot compare to Puntanam's recitation of the Bhagavatam. So Puntanam's recitation was so pure, so full of devotion, that even Devi Parvati herself said to Lord Shiva that not even Lord Shiva's recitation of the Bhagavatam could compare with Puntanam's own recitation. So this only goes to show not just the greatness of the Bhagavatam, but also the greatness of devotees who recite it with full faith and full devotion. Okay, I'll continue to share my screen again. Just a minute. Okay. Here I go. Yes. So this is yet another pastime of Guruvayurappan. So there was once this devotee who wished to arrange a feast for Guruvayurappan and the devotees with 100 measures of rice. Now I'm not sure how much one measure of rice equals in the present days, but when this episode occurred, at that point, all I know is that the devotee wished to offer 100 measures of rice and arrange a feast using that quantity. And it happened that the day before this offering was due to be made, one of the two assistant priests who were to help prepare the food fell ill. And now the temple trustee at that time, whose name was Mallisheri Nambudiri, he was a very great devotees of members of that family have traditionally been for years and years, for generations together, they have been very great devotees of steadfast devotees of Guruvayur. So at that point, this temple trustee, he was worried because he was responsible for managing the affairs of the temple and to see to it that everything happened smoothly. And when devotees came forward with a desire to make offerings to the Lord, it was his responsibility to make sure that any arrangements that had to be made by the temple to ensure that the offering was made would have to be taken care of. So he was in a fix. Now he became restless. He spent a sleepless night. He thought, who's going to help prepare the offering? The assistant priest says he's ill. What am I going to do? Guruvayur, you are the only one who can help me. I am leaving this to your hands. You know what is best. You take care of this. The next morning, when this trustee went to the temple, he was shocked. He was pleasantly surprised to see that this priest, who was supposed to be on sick leave, he had returned. And he had already started preparing the feast for the Lord. And the trustee said, oh, wow, everything's sorted. God has been really very kind. I'm so relieved. And once the preparation of the food was over, this priest, he went to the temple pond for a bath, but a long time passed, and the priest did not return. And so the trustee wondered what had happened, and he sent out people to search to find out where the priest had disappeared to. And the next day, he was informed that ever since that priest in question, ever since that priest had gone on leave, he had been bedridden. And it was only then that he realized that the one who was standing in the kitchen, temple kitchen, cooking all the food for the feast was Guruvayur himself. He heard the prayers of the trustee. He listened to his cries for help, and he decided to help the devotee. So it was the Lord himself who went to the kitchen to prepare the food. How kind Krishna is, really. There have been so many. These are just a few. Of course, if we were to sit and research or go about asking what are the experiences countless devotees have had over the years, we could go on and on and on. So these are just a few that I am sharing with everyone today. This one, I like this one very much. So this story is about, I wouldn't call it story, this pastime is about a little boy who once happened to offer half a banana to Krishna. And how did he do that? Or why did he do that? So there was this little boy who had gone, he had nobody, he had no family or home of his own. And he had gone hungry for many, many days. So he once happened to steal a banana from a shop in Guruvayur, close to the temple. Now, this child, he was hungry, but he also felt a little guilty because he was a devotee of Guruvayur. And he did not feel very good eating the banana all by himself. So what he did was, he split the banana in half, and he put half the banana into the temple hundi, or the box for offerings, that is placed in the temple. He put half the banana into that box and he ate the other half himself. Now the shopkeeper, he happened to catch the boy red-handed. He caught the boy stealing the banana, and but he did not have the heart to punish him because he knew the child was genuinely hungry. But what he did was he asked the boy to walk around the temple a certain number of times. So the boy started walking, but the shopkeeper, he was shocked to see Guruvayurappan actually following the little boy all around the temple. So the boy is walking, and Krishna, little boy Krishna, he is following the child a few steps behind, and only the shopkeeper can see him. The child doesn't know that the Lord is following him. So he was so shocked, he couldn't get any words out. And that night, he had a dream where Guruvayurappan, he explained to the shopkeeper, he said, "You see, I ate half of the stolen banana. It was not the boy who ate the banana completely. He ate half of it. He gave the other half to me. I ate it. So when you punished him, it was only fair that I shared the punishment. I could not just eat the banana by myself, right? If he was being punished, it was only fair that I shared the punishment as well. So that is why I followed him all around the temple as long as he kept walking." So many devotees, they offer, I don't think it's related to this pastime, but it is a very popular offering with most devotees. So what they do is, it's a small piece of a banana leaf, and on that there is a fresh lotus bud, a banana, and a piece of cloth, either yellow or red, or sometimes both. So you can see many devotees leaving their offerings either inside the temple, or there is this tall stone lamp, like multi-layered stone lamps on both the eastern and the western entrance of the temple. So a lot of devotees leave their offerings either there or inside the temple. This is a photograph of, I think this is the eastern entrance, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, this is the eastern entrance. So some of the devotees have left their offerings over there. Oh, wow. I like this one also. Before I begin, this photograph you see, if you recall, I mentioned statues of various deities and devotees inside the temple on both sides in one particular part of the temple. So these tall pillars on both the sides, there are statues facing each other. So this is one of this photograph is of one of the statues on, I think, the left side. This is of Krishna in the traditional Kerala style Kathakali costume. So when actors in the Krishnatam dance drama, which I mentioned in the last episode. The last episode, was it before that? The last one, I think. Yeah, so actors traditionally dress in such a costume. So very heavy, very richly detailed costumes. So yeah, this one again relates to coconuts. So there was this farmer who had planted coconut palms on his farm, and he made a vow that when the trees would start to yield fruit, he would offer the first yield to Guruvayurappan. So when the trees produced a bountiful yield, true to his promise, this farmer, he packed coconuts into sacks and he loaded them into his cart and he left for Guruvayur. Now, on the way, I think must have been quite dark. A gang of robbers, they blocked his path and they demanded that he hand over all the sacks to them. Now, this farmer, he pleaded. He said, "No, please, these coconuts are meant for Guruvayurappan. I have promised to offer these coconuts. They were grown on my farm. I promised the Lord that I would offer them to him. Please, I cannot give them to you. Please spare me. Please don't do this. So the robbers, of course, they did not understand the seriousness of the situation, or the intensity of the man's desire to make that offering to the Lord. They said, what do you think is so special about these coconuts? Do they have horns? You think they're so special just because they are meant for Guruvayur? You better give them to us. And then they snatched the sacks from the farmer, and then they handled it all very roughly, and they emptied all the sacks onto the ground. Coconuts started rolling out of the sacks onto the bare ground. And they were shocked to see that every single coconut that came out of the sack had two horns on either side. Every single, we haven't ever heard of coconuts with horns, have we? But because those robbers, they mockingly made that comment, and to illustrate the truth, the purity of that man's devotion, and to show that such things are not to be lightly dealt with, the Lord showed the robbers. And every single coconut that came out of the sacks had horns on it. And even today, I recall having seen one of these coconuts for myself, but it's a little faint memory. But I do remember going to this small museum on the eastern side of the temple. It's a very small room. If for someone who is not very familiar with the temple surroundings, we might not even know. Even I did not know this museum existed for many, many years, in spite of having been going to Guruvayur ever since we were 6 months old. So that museum, it has a couple of those coconuts. They still have horns on them, and they are living testimony to the power of Guruvayurappan's blessing.
These horns are in the museum, huh? These
coconut. Yeah, the coconut. Yeah, it's in the museum. I don't know if they're still there, but this was when I visited the museum. I think it was about, I think about 7 to 8 years ago. I'm not sure. 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 years ago. Yes, they're still there. Yes, so the next pastime that I'm going to share, this explains how this ritual of the ritual called Vakacharta came into being at Guruvayur. So when I explained the typical schedule of worship on a given day at Guruvayur, this is one of the first few rituals for the day that takes place in the morning. So Guruvayur is home to a lot of beautiful, meaningful traditions and rituals that have been followed for centuries, and Vakacharta is one of them. So what Vakacharta means is, Charta, the word Charta in Malayalam means to apply something or to anoint the Lord with something. So Vaka, the Vaka tree, the this photo that you see in on the screen, this photograph of the Vaka tree. I think it is local to that region of Kerala. I'm not sure if it grows much outside of Kerala. I'm not aware of the specifics, but the powder that is made from the bark of this tree is used to remove any excess oil on the deity, on the body of the Lord, after the oil abhishekam that is performed every morning. So they perform abhishekam with oil made from sesame seeds, or til seeds as you call them in Hindi. So that oil is used to perform abhishekam in the morning, and the powder made from the bark tree is used to remove any excess oil that may be present before the Lord is then adorned with clothes and ornaments. So how did this ritual come into being? So there was once a boy named Chashu who used to do small odd jobs for a living. And at one point of time, he went without food for about 3 days in a row. And unable to bear the hunger, he was about to drown himself in a river when Devarshi Narada appeared before him. And he said, what you were about to do is a sin. It's a sin to commit suicide. Why do you take such drastic measures? Let me give you something. So Devarshi Narada, he gave Chashu a very rare vessel, which he said would produce food as and when desired. So this reminds us of the story of Akshaya Patra that occurs in the Mahabharata. So the boy was happy, and then, but slowly he became greedy. He forgot all that had happened, and he forgot what kind of situation he was in before he got the vessel from Devarshi Narada, and he became greedy, and he thought, oh, if I try to drown myself once more, Devarshi Narada will come again and he'll give me something even bigger. And he tried to drown himself in the river a second time. But this time, what happened was the reverse. The one vessel that he had, that vessel also disappeared. And now he had no other source of food. What had been given to him had gone, it had disappeared. And then, because of the lack of nutrition and the lack of food, he got rashes all over his skin, all over his body. And looking at his situation, Devarshi Narada again appeared. But this time he advised him to let go of his selfish greed. And he said, you pray to the Lord, you pray to Lord Mahavishnu, you ask him for forgiveness. He is so merciful, he will be sure to forgive your deeds, your actions, whatever you have done. And the boy, he started to cry for help. And Devi Mahalakshmi, she appealed to the Lord, oh Lord, you must answer the cries for help that this child is, this boy is calling out to you for help. You must go to his rescue. So the Lord explained that in his previous birth as a priest, this boy had a son who was a great devotee of the Lord, but and because of his pure devotion, the child had attained the Lord's divine abode. But this boy, who had been a priest at that time, his devotion was driven mainly by selfish motives. So as a result of his accumulated karma, he had taken birth again as this boy. Now back on earth, this boy, he was unable to bear hunger any longer. He fell unconscious. And at that point, the Lord, he very gently stroked the boy's head, and the boy awoke. And then he prayed to the Lord for forgiveness. He said, please deliver me from this suffering. I cannot bear it anymore. So the Lord blessed Chashu, the boy, born as a vaka tree in the Kali Yuga, and the powder made from your bark shall be used to remove the oil poured on my body during the morning Abhishekam. And this oil that is used for Guruvayurappan's Abhishekam is given as prasadam in the morning, along with the holy water or the tirtha prasadam that is offered. The water that is used for Abhishekam is usually given as prasadam in most temples. So in Guruvayur, this water comes mixed with the oil that is used for the Abhishekam. It has a very unique fragrance and taste. We have had the opportunity to taste this prasadam a few times. And this prasadam, this oil, is also available to take home, right? So they give it out in small containers. So this oil is believed to possess very divine healing properties. So these flowers that you see on the screen, these are the flowers of that tree in question, the vaka tree. And so thus that boy, Chashu, he came to serve the Lord by virtue of being taking the form of this tree. And because of that, he proved to be of invaluable service to all the devotees who are affected by seemingly incurable ailments, especially skin ailments. Right. I'm aware that the time has already passed 4:30, but Prabhuji, I have to share this. I cannot.
Of
I don't
course,
want to end the session without sharing
of course.
pastimes of this very great devotee of the Lord. So far, we have spoken about human devotees, but this is about an elephant devotee of the Lord. This is especially very close to my heart and my family as well, because we have grown up listening to the stories, the legends of this particular elephant. He was no ordinary animal. And I remember we had this, we used to have those VCR players in those days, video cassette recorders. We had those video cassette tapes. And I remember we had a video cassette tape of a movie that was made on the life of this elephant, and we used to put it on again and again and again, and we used to watch it so many times. My brother, my cousins, they all relate to this very well. So yeah, let me come to the point. So elephants are a very important part of most temple rituals and festivities in Kerala, and Guruvayur in particular. So this elephant that I wish to talk about today, he was called Keshavan, and because he belonged to Guruvayur, he was famously called Guruvayur Keshavan. He was legendary. He served Guruvayurappan for more than 50 years at the temple. And this photograph that you see is of an old photograph of, he's no more, of course. He passed away in 1976. So this is an old photograph of Keshavan. He stood tall at nearly 10.5 feet. But in spite of his imposing appearance, Keshavan was known to be very, very gentle. For an animal of his size, he was known to be very gentle, very calm, and a quiet animal in general. So his appearance was regal, like a king, and he did not just look like a king, he behaved with a character that was so noble. It gave him the title of Gajarajan. So Raja meaning king, of course, and Gaja meaning elephant. So Gajarajan meaning king of elephants. So he was sometimes called Gajarajan Guruvayur Keshavan. So Keshavan was presented in service of the Lord by the royal family of a place called Nilambur in Kerala. This occurs in the Malabar region, I think somewhere in northern Kerala. So he was presented in service of the Lord in the year 1922. And so I would like to share a few pastimes in connection with Keshavan. This is another photograph. I think it was restored to color. There were not many. The photography in the 60s and 70s was mostly black and white. So I think the color must have been restored digitally later on. So on one episode, Keshavan was walking towards the temple at a very great speed. and he disobeyed the orders of his mahots, the people who take care, the caretakers of the elephant. He did not listen to his caretakers, and he was just walking at a very great speed. And whoever was on the road, they ran for their lives. They were terrified, because imagine seeing an animal of that size walking at a great speed. You can only run out of the path of the animal. But there was this leper, this person affected by leprosy. He did not have both legs, so he could not even get up from the ground where he was sitting. And he just cried out to the Lord, "Oh, please, please, please save me. This animal is coming towards me. I cannot do anything. I cannot get up." But imagine everyone's astonishment. People are watching from the side. They are all safe. As far as they are concerned, they have moved away, and they watched Keshavan lifting the man with his trunk. He lifted the man very gently, placed him in a safe corner on the side of the road, and he walked straight to the temple without harming any person or any property on the road. So for an animal to have that presence of mind is so very rare. That only goes to show that Keshavan was not any ordinary elephant. He was incredibly blessed. And on a similar occasion, on a different day, of course, Keshavan had gone wild, and he had started to run about. And a woman who was feeding her baby, she fled the spot. But before she did not have time to react. The baby slipped out of her hands. And now the child is on the road, and this elephant is coming running. And there's nothing anyone can do to go and pick up the child before something happens. But Keshavan, now an animal in a wild state of mind, when he reached that spot, he saw the baby. He stood silent there. He stopped running. He stood there silently for a few moments, and then he literally walked back. He did not do anything to harm the baby. He just walked back, and the baby was safe. Yeah, this is yet another photograph of Guruvayur Keshavan. This goes to show the devotion that the greatness of the devotion that Keshavan had for the Lord, which not many humans have to such a great degree. So during the temple festivities, so the people who take part in the daily processions, those who are carrying the deity of the Lord, and then there are those who carry umbrellas for the Lord, there are hand fans, all these people have to climb on top of the elephant, right, to sit on top of the elephant. So the elephant has to bend his legs forward so that they can climb up on top of him, and then the elephant rises back to its full height. So Keshavan in particular, he was known to bend forward his front legs only and only for those who were carrying the deity of the Lord for the procession. He refused to bend his legs for everyone else. All those people who were carrying the umbrellas, the peacock feather fans, or even the chamara. You know the chamara, right? The white brush-like fan that is used as part of the daily worship for the deities. So every other person carrying all these things would have to climb up from using the support of Keshavan's back legs or the hind legs. So he bent forward his front legs only and only for those who carried the deity of the Lord, no one else. And he did this all throughout his life, right until the very end. And once the deity was mounted on his head, he would have to rise back up, right? He would have to stand back up again. And he was already very tall. He was already 10.5 feet in height. He used to stretch himself. He used to hold his head very high. And he did not, he never used to let his height down until the procession was over. So until the Lord was safely on the ground, removed from the back of, from the top of his head, he would remain in that position. And even at that extended height, his trunk was so long that it would curl on the ground. So that was the mark of a great elephant. And on another occasion, so now Trishur is the neighboring city of Guruvayur. It's like a focal point for anyone who wishes to travel to Guruvayur. So it's a center of transport. So all major trains or buses, they all converge at Trishur. So you either take a bus or a train to Trishur, where depending on where you are in the country, and from there it is just a 1 hour drive to Guruvayur. So he was taken, Keshavan, this elephant, he was taken to Trishur on one particular day, and his caretakers, they tried to get him to pull some heavy logs of wood. Now Keshavan, he refused to do it. He refused to do the work because he felt his only duty was to serve Guruvayur. He refused to do the work that the caretakers were asking him to do. And it is said that when they tried to force him, he turned around and he ran all the way from Trishur to the Guruvayur temple, and he stopped only when he reached the temple. Like, he stopped only when he reached the inside of the temple in front of the Lord, but he did not harm anybody on the way. So this only shows that his devotion was so single-minded, so focused. And this is for an animal who cannot speak or convey emotions or feelings in a way that humans do. But that did not stop him from having the devotion that he had. And so I mentioned that he came to the temple in about the year 1922. So in the year 1973, for the very first time, the golden jubilee of an elephant services to the Lord was celebrated. And it was at that time that the title of Gajarajan was conferred upon Guruvayur Keshavan. So this was in 1973, but in 1976, December 2, I think the date was, that day happened to be Guruvayur Ekadashi. And as there was a morning procession of the Lord, it had, until that point, it had always been Keshavan's privilege to carry the deity of the Lord on his head during the daily temple processions. But something happened to him that day. He started shivering and trembling all over. And at one point, he couldn't even stand on his legs. So immediately, the caretakers, whoever was present there, they transferred the deity from Keshavan to another elephant who was standing next to him. And they led Keshavan out of the temple to a place where he could be comfortable. And a large compound, an open air compound. So Keshavan, once he reached that spot, he just lay down because he couldn't stand anymore. He just lay down with his trunk raised towards the Lord, and he let out his last few breaths and he attained the Lord's feet. So that became, from what I hear, from what I've heard, me and my cousins and my brother, what we have heard from our parents, uncle and aunt, it made national headlines because at that point, because Keshavan was so famous, and everyone who had an attachment towards Guruvayur and Guruvayurappan invariably had this attachment and love for Keshavan as well. So when Keshavan passed away, there were so many who couldn't take it, who were so heartbroken, and thousands turned up to offer their last respects to this very great devotee of the Lord. So at that very spot where he breathed his last, a grand statue of Guruvayur Keshavan stands today. So the upper photograph that you see on screen, the one on the left is the statue of Keshavan, and the elephant on the opposite the one with its trunk raised. This is a ceremony where few selected elephants from the temple, they are brought to that spot every year on the day preceding Guruvayur Ekadashi. So on the day of Dash, so on the morning, these elephants come in a procession, and it is very grand. There are musical instruments being played. The elephants offer flowers and garlands to the of Keshavan, because in a way he is their predecessor. So he is like a guru to every elephant who serves the Lord. I had the opportunity of seeing, there was only, we have only been able to visit Guruvayur once so far on the occasion of Guruvayur, because it can get extremely busy. It's not, you have to wait for hours and hours to get inside the temple and have a darshan of the Lord. So it's really very beautiful. It's a spectacle, truly. And the second photograph, those tusks that you see in the photograph, these are Keshavan's tusks, which were taken out before he was cremated. And these are right above the entrance to the inner shrine in the Guruvayur temple. And they are there as a tribute to Keshavan and the service that he offered to Guruvayurappan during his lifetime. So let us also offer our respects to Keshavan and Guruvayurappan, of course, and pray to be blessed with at least a small fraction of the devotion that he had. A truly, truly great devotee of the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Wonderful pastimes. Great elephant. Great devotee.
Yeah.
You know the pastime of Gajendra as well in the Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Rajendra Moksham, yes, of course.
Yeah. Some of these elephants are extraordinary in their devotion.
Really.
Anybody, any questions, any comments, anything they'd like to share?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Very well explained. It just shows that Bharatverse has got corners and corners of Krishna Leela that, some of them we haven't heard, but today was lovely to hear this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
First class. Thank you. Thank you so much. So,
thank you for the extended time, Prabhu.
No, that was good. Really good.
Thank you, Mataji, for these lovely pastimes.
Thank you, Karna Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, we can do prayers of protection to Lord Nrsingadev. And of course, we want to pray for Bharat.